The desert wind howled like a dying animal. The sun burned high in the sky, showing no mercy. The sand stretched for miles, hot and lifeless. And in the middle of it, she was buried up to her neck. Only her face remained above the surface dry. Lips cracked, skin burnt, eyes nearly shut from the heat. Her name was Alira, once a proud member of the Trullan tribe. Now she was nothing to them. They said she was barren, useless, a curse. She could not give life, so they sentenced her to death, slow and cruel. Buried alive where vultures circled and sandworms hunted. No food, no water. Just the sun, the wind, and time. But she wasn't dead yet. Not fully. Her heart still beat. Her thoughts still screamed. And her body, weak as it was, still hoped. For what she didn't know. No one had ever returned from the sand punishment. Until now, a figure stood far away on the edge of a dune. A silhouette against the blinding sun. Not one of her people. Not a beast. The shape was taller, broader, and moving closer. She blinked, her dry eyes barely able to focus. Boots crunched against the sand. A heavy coat flapped in the wind. Metal. Glinted from a belt tools, maybe, or weapons. A strange mask covered his mouth and nose, the kind worn by off-worlders. And the eyes behind the visor were human, a man. Alone, and not from this planet. He knelt beside her. His face close now. Calm. Focused. "You're alive," he said. His voice was deep, smooth, tired. Alira couldn't speak. Her throat was like cracked stone. She moved her lips, but no sound came. The man didn't panic. He pulled out a small container and poured a few drops of water onto her lips. Cool liquid touched her mouth. It was heaven. She gasped softly. "That's better," he said. "Don't talk, just breathe." He looked around. The desert was silent, but the wind was shifting. He had to move fast. He dropped to his knees and began digging with his hands. The sand was packed tight, hardened by the sun and wind. Each handful took effort. He worked fast, his gloves slicing through the grains, his breaths heavy. Alira could barely think. Why was a human here? Why was he helping her? She tried to speak again. "Why?" "Later," he said, not looking up. "You're not dying." Here, his tone was matter-of-fact. Like this was just another task. Like pulling half-dead women out of execution pits was normal for him. The digging continued. Her shoulders appeared first, then her arms, her chest. He paused only to give her more water, slowly, carefully. Her body was stiff, numb, but life was returning. He didn't stop until he freed her completely. Then, without a word, he lifted her into his arms. Alira was too weak to resist. He carried her across the sand, his legs strong, steady. The wind picked up behind him, wiping away their footprints. As if they had never been there. At the edge of a rocky ridge, he entered a small shelter built into the stone. It was rough but solid. Inside, the air was cooler. A solar panel hummed quietly on the roof. Old tech but working. He laid her on a padded mat and wrapped a blanket over her. Alira looked up at him. "Why help me?" she whispered. He removed his mask, revealing a face lined with scars. His jaw was sharp, beard rough, eyes pale blue haunted. "Because I've been buried too," he said simply. Alira blinked, confused. "You?" He nodded. "Not in sand, but close enough." He stood and turned away, opening a small case of supplies. "Rest. You'll need your strength. If your people find out you're alive, they'll come." Her heart tightened. She knew. He was right. Her death wasn't just punishment. It was meant to be a message. If they learned she lived, it would be war. The man looked back at her. "What's your name?" "Alira." He nodded once. "I'm Jack." A strange silence filled the room. Heavy but not cold. Two broken souls. Strangers in every way. And yet, not alone anymore. Outside, The wind covered her grave. Inside. Her heart began to beat for life again. The night was cold. Inside the small rocky shelter, a faint blue heater hummed near the wall. Alira lay wrapped in a thick blanket, her body weak but no longer shaking. Her fingers twitched slowly. Her breath came easier. The last time she had slept under a roof, she was still part of a tribe that pretended to love her. But now, only one man sat beside her, and he wasn't from her world. He was human. Jack. She opened her eyes and saw him sitting by the door, cleaning a knife. His eyes kept flicking toward the desert beyond the crack in the rocks. Watching, waiting. He hadn't said much after rescuing her. He just worked, moved with purpose. Like a man used to surviving alone. Where are you from? Alira asked, her voice still dry. Jack didn't look at her right away. He wiped the blade once more, then finally turned to face her. Earth, he said. But that was a long time ago. Earth, she had heard stories about that place. A blue world, too wet, too loud, full of humans who never stayed still. Her tribe called them dangerous, wild, violent, but this one had dug her out of a death sentence without asking for anything. Why are you here? She asked, softer now. He stared at her, his face unreadable. Then he stood and poured a small cup of warmed water. He handed it to her. She took it with both hands, her grip still shaky. Let's just say, he replied, I got tired of being where I wasn't wanted. Alira paused. That answer hit deeper than she expected. He understood. Not in words, but in feeling. You were cast out? She whispered. Jack didn't speak. He sat down again, pulled a worn photo from his jacket pocket, and looked at it for a long moment. Then he put it away. Something like that, he said. Silence stretched between them. Not heavy, just honest. Then a sound broke it. A low, deep growl echoed from outside the rocks. Jack froze. Alira's heart skipped. What is it? Jack stood, slow and quiet, and reached for a strange rifle leaning against the wall. Stay down, he said. Don't move. She obeyed. Jack crept to the entrance and peered outside. The growl came again, closer this time. Alira's breathing sped up. Then they heard it scraping. A claw, maybe. Metal against stone. Jack cursed under his breath. Sand howler. Alira's eyes widened. A desert predator. Blind but deadly. It could smell weakness. Smell blood. And she was still too weak to run. Jack moved fast, silent. He reached into a crate and pulled out a small glowing orb. Stay quiet, he whispered. When I throw this, it'll flash, loud, bright. Might scare it off. Might, she said, trembling. Jack looked at her. Do you want me to lie to you? Alira managed a weak smile. No, he threw the orb. A second passed, then boom. A flash of white light and sharp sound shook the shelter. Alira shut her eyes. The wind outside went wild, sand crashing against the walls. A high-pitched scream echoed as the howler fled. Jack waited, then stepped back inside and sealed the stone door. Alira stared at him. He dropped the rifle. Sat down, let out a breath. You okay? He asked. She nodded. I think I am now. Jack finally gave her something new, a small smile. It didn't last long. He walked to a small box and opened it. Inside, a red blinking light pulsed slowly. What is that? She asked. Warning, he muttered. Something tripped the perimeter scan. Could be scavengers, could be your people. Alira's face went pale. If they find you, helped me. Jack met her eyes. They won't, he said. But you don't even know me, she said, voice trembling. I don't have to, he replied. I just know no one deserves what they did to you. The room fell quiet again. But this time, it wasn't fear holding them still. It was something else. Something. Beginning. The sky had turned red by morning. Jack stood at the edge of a cliff near the shelter, his rifle slung over one shoulder. a pair of old binoculars pressed to his eyes. Below him, the sand moved strangely, as if it remembered footsteps. It wasn't the wind, it was too clean, too careful. Someone was tracking them. Back inside, Alira wrapped the blanket tighter around her shoulders. She sat on the cold floor, knees pulled to her chest. Her body was stronger today, but not strong enough. Not fast enough. She knew what this meant. "They're coming," she said when Jack walked in. She didn't ask. She knew. Jack nodded. "A scout, maybe two. Following the trail I left when I dug you out." Alira's face went pale. "They'll kill you," Jack shrugged. "Let them try." Alira looked down. "You don't understand. My tribe doesn't just kill, they punish. If they find you helped me, they'll bury you next, but deeper, slower." Jack leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "I'm not afraid of holes in the ground." She looked at him sharply. "You should be." He paused, then gave a half smile. Too late. Outside the shelter, across the hills of sand, two cloaked figures moved low, their faces hidden behind veils. One of them crouched and touched the ground. "He carried her," the taller one said. "A human," the smaller one hissed. "He stole her, defied the punishment. We must bring her back, dead or alive." They moved like ghosts, silent, angry. Meanwhile, inside the shelter, Jack placed a small square device on the ground. A light blinked. "What's that?" Alira asked. "Boombox," Jack said simply. "You step on it, it bites. Might buy us a minute or two if they get close." "You've done this before," she said, watching him. "Surviving?" "Yeah, saving." "People?" "Not really." She tilted her head. "Why me then?" He looked at her. "Why not you?" She didn't have an answer. For a moment, the silence between them wasn't heavy, it was soft. But then, the shelter lights flickered. Jack turned. "That's not good." Alira stood, still wobbly but stronger than before. "They have pulse disruptors. They'll fry your power systems. You people really don't play around." "We're not my people anymore," she said. "Not after what they did." Jack paused, then nodded. "Fair." He opened a storage crate and tossed her a small curved blade. It wasn't much, but it was something. "Can you use it?" Alira held it steady. "Well enough to stab someone." Jack gave a small smile. "That's the spirit." Outside, the two scouts found the entrance. One placed a black orb on the wall. It hissed, drilling into the stone. Inside, Jack heard it. "Here we go." The wall exploded inward, smoke and sparks filling the air. Two shadows rushed in, silent and deadly. Jack fired once, hitting the taller one in the leg. They screamed and collapsed. The second came straight for Alira. She didn't hesitate. Her blade found the scout's side, piercing cloth and skin. The woman screamed and collapsed beside her. Then all was quiet again. Jack moved to the door, breathing hard. "Two down," he muttered. "But that won't be the end of it." Alira stood over the fallen body of her former tribemate, chest heaving. Her hands were shaking. Her blade was bloody. She stared down at the scout's face. "I knew her," she whispered. "She braided my hair when we were kids." Jack watched her. Said nothing. Alira's voice trembled. "I didn't want this." Jack walked to her. "You didn't choose this. They did." Her knees buckled and she sat down. "They'll keep coming, then we keep surviving," he said, loading his weapon. She looked up at him. "You don't have to stay." "I know," he said, eyes steady. "But I will." And in that moment, as the bodies lay cooling and the wind screamed outside, Alira felt something stronger than fear. She felt seen. The two bodies were buried by dawn, not as punishment, but with care. Jack didn't speak much as he shoveled the last mound of sand over the women who tried to kill them. Alira just watched. Her blade, still stained, hung loosely by her side. She didn't cry. Not for them. "Not anymore. You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. They were yours once, Jack replied. You deserve to forget them on your own terms. Alira looked at the desert. The same desert that had nearly swallowed her. No one's ever come back from the sand, she said. They'll think I'm a ghost. Jack looked at her, serious. Then let's make you one. They fear. Inside the shelter, Jack knelt over a rusted crate in the corner. It clicked open with a spark. What is that? Alira asked, stepping closer. He pulled out a flat, dark box with strange markings and a faded Earth flag. Old tech. From the crash. Crash? He nodded. Shipwreck, years ago. I was with a recon unit. Got shot down. The others didn't make it. She stared at him. You survived all this time, alone? He smirked. Wasn't planning on visitors. Alira looked at the box. What's in it? Something that might change everything. Jack opened the device. A small screen flickered to life. A single message blinked in faded blue. Survival beacon locked, ready to transmit. Alira gasped. That's a distress signal. Jack nodded. If I send it, a human ship might pick it up. Might come. She stared at him. Then why haven't you sent it before? He looked at her. Because I didn't care if I got out. Until now. Alira felt something tighten in her chest. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pain. It was something warmer. You want to leave. She whispered. I want you to leave, Jack said. They'll never stop hunting you. Not while you breathe. You deserve a second life. She stepped forward. And you? Jack's voice dropped. I don't know if I still belong in the stars. Hours passed. The heat rose. The wind whispered threats through the rocks. That night, they sat together by the tiny fire, eating dried ration packs. Alira poked the flames with a stick. When I was a child, she said, I used to sneak out to the old dunes. I wanted to see the stars, Jack nodded. What stopped you? My mother. She said Barren girls shouldn't look up. They had nothing to wish for. Jack's jaw tightened. Alira looked at him. But I still looked. They sat in silence again. Then a sound broke the peace. Not footsteps. Not claws. Engines. Low. Distant. Approaching fast. Jack jumped to his feet. They're using a sand skimmer. Alira stood beside him, heart pounding. They'll have weapons. Jack grabbed his rifle. Then we better move. Minutes later, they were out in the open, running. Across the dunes. Jack carried the beacon. Alira followed closely behind, holding a small knife, heart racing. Behind them, the skimmer's lights cut through the night like knives. We won't outrun them, she shouted. We don't have to, Jack said, tossing something behind him. A small explosion rocked the sand. The skimmer swerved. Slowed. Jack pulled her into a narrow rock passage ahead. They ducked into a hidden cavern, cool, dark, quiet. Alira's breath shook. He placed the beacon on a ledge. The screen blinked. Now, Jack said. You press the button. She hesitated. And if I do, what happens to you? He didn't answer. So she stepped closer and pressed her hand over his on the button. Together, they pushed it. A soft ping echoed from the beacon. A small light shot into the sky like a silent firework, somewhere far above. In the black of space, a human satellite blinked to life. Signal received. Back inside the cave, Alira sat beside Jack. I'm not leaving without you, she said. Looked at her. And I won't leave you here alone. She smiled faintly. Then I guess we wait, he said. But outside, the desert was moving again. More were coming. Not scouts this time. Warriors. And they weren't planning to take her alive. The cave was silent, too silent. Alira sat with her back against the stone wall, knees drawn up to her chest. Her knife lay beside her, useless against what was coming. Jack sat just a few feet away, rifle in his lap, staring toward the cave. Entrance. The sand outside was trembling. Not from the wind, not from footsteps. Many of them. Jack adjusted the scope. 5, maybe 6. Alira's eyes widened. They brought hunters. He nodded, with shock spears. Armor, not scouts. They're here to finish the job. She swallowed hard. They're not just coming for me, they're coming for us. Jack glanced at her. You still have a choice. She frowned. What? He pointed to the beacon. You run, beacon's live. If a ship picks it up and lands, you go. Her jaw tightened. And leave you behind? I'll slow them down. Alira stood suddenly, eyes burning. Don't you dare. Jack raised an eyebrow. You think I made it out of that grave just to crawl back into a different one? She said, if you die tonight, I die too. I'm done being buried. Jack didn't smile, but something in his eyes softened. The first flash came without warning, a searing light. A pulse grenade. The cave shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Their ears rang. Then came the voices. Low, harsh, speaking in Alira's native tongue. Return the cursed one. The human will die slowly. Jack stood, rifle aimed at the entrance. Did they just say I get the slow death? Alira gave a breathless laugh. Yes, congratulations. Charming people. Then the storm broke. Figures in black armor burst into the cave. Spears crackled with blue lightning. One threw a blade. Jack ducked, fired. A body hit the ground hard. Another charged at Alira. She didn't run. She turned and drove, her knife into the hunter's stomach. He screamed, then fell silent. Jack fought like a man with nothing left to lose. But Alira fought like someone who had everything to fight for. When the last body dropped, the cave was lit only by the flickering beacon and the soft glow of blue sparks from broken weapons. Jack leaned against the wall, bleeding from a cut near his ribs. Alira rushed to him. Let me see. He waved her off. I've had worse. She ignored him and tore the shirt away from the wound. It's deep. You should see the other guy. She grabbed a cloth from his bag and pressed it to the wound. Why do you joke when you're hurt? Jack exhaled, because if I don't, I remember the pain. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. Then I'll help you forget. He looked at her, really looked. For a moment, the war was gone. The fear, the tribe, the sand. All that remained was her. In him. Two souls who weren't supposed to survive, now sharing the same breath. That night, in the small warmth of the cave, Jack lay back on a blanket. Alira sat beside him, her head resting on his chest. I never had a warm bed, she whispered, not even as a child. Jack stared at the cave ceiling. I haven't either, not since the crash. She looked up at him. Then maybe this. Right now is one. He placed his hand over hers. It's not the bed, it's the person in it. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was safe. Until a soft beep filled the cave. Alira sat up. What was that? Jack pointed to the beacon. Its light had changed. Green. The signal was answered. Ship was coming. But so were more warriors. They had little time left. Asterisk. The sky burned silver. A streak of light cut through the stars, fast, bright. And not from this world. The beacon had worked. Help was coming, but death was coming faster. Alira stood at the mouth of the cave, wind whipping her hair across her face. Her eyes locked on the signal flare climbing above the dunes. A small human rescue ship was on approach, still too far. Behind her, Jack checked his ammo, one last clip. Half a charge left in his rifle. He didn't say it out loud, but they both knew. This was the final stand. Alira turned. They'll be here before the ship lands. Jack nodded. Yeah. How many? Too many. She stepped closer. Then we fight. Jack met her eyes. You sure? She smiled faintly. I didn't crawl out of a grave just to beg for mercy. Below the ridge, a dust storm was rising, but it wasn't natural. It was being kicked up by boots, dozens of them. Her tribe's war party had arrived. They wore dark armor, faces hidden behind bone masks. Long spears pulsed with energy. Drums beat low across the sand. A death rhythm. Jack raised his rifle and stared through the scope. Leaders in front. Big one. Looks like he brought the whole damned clan. Alira's stomach turned. His name is Vurek. He was once my protector. Now he wants my head. Jack tightened his grip. Then let's make him work for it. They set traps, dug shallow pits, charged the last energy grenades. Jack handed Alira a backup weapon, an old earth pistol with 2 bullets. She raised an eyebrow. Just 2? He smirked. Make them count. As the enemy closed in, the sand vibrated beneath their feet. Jack looked at Alira. If I go down, she cut him off. You're not going down, but if I do, you're not. He sighed. You're stubborn. She stepped in close. You gave me back my life, Jack. If this is the end, I'll spend it beside you. The first arrow hit the stone beside her. Then the war began. Jack fired first, dropping 2 warriors in one shot. The traps went off, explosions, screams, fire. But still they came. Alira fought like she was born in the sand. Blade flashing. Gunfire cracking. Jack moved with sharp precision like a soldier who'd done this before. Because he had, but numbers were numbers. And theirs were too few. A spear grazed Alira's leg. She stumbled. Jack pulled her behind a rock, breath ragged. You all right? He asked, still breathing. He smiled grimly. Good. Try to keep it that way. Suddenly, the sky roared. Engines. A massive human rescue ship dropped below the clouds, sleek, armed, shining like hope. Alira's eyes widened. They're here. Jack didn't answer. He was bleeding. Bad. A spear had pierced just beneath his ribs. She dropped beside him, panic in her voice. No, no, stay with me. He coughed, blood staining his lips. You made it. That's what matters. No, she said fiercely. We made it. The ship fired warning shots. The tribe scattered, retreating into the dunes like shadows. Alira screamed toward the sky. Down here, medical team now. Minutes later, boots hit the ground. Humans in white armor rushed toward them. One dropped to his knees beside Jack. Stay with us, soldier. Jack's eyes fluttered. Took long enough. As the medics worked, Alira held his hand, refusing to let go. He looked up at her, barely conscious. Still think ... I don't belong ... in the stars? Her voice cracked. You belong wherever I am. He smiled. Then everything went white. The smell of clean air hit her first. No dust. No blood. No burning sand. Alira blinked against the soft white lights above her. The ceiling wasn't stone. The walls weren't shaking. There was no wind, no sound of distant war drums. Just peace, and the soft hum of machines. She sat up slowly. Her leg was wrapped, healed. Her skin was clean. She wore a light blue gown, and soft sheets covered her legs. She was on a human ship. Real, safe, floating high above the planet that had tried to bury her alive. Then the memory slammed into her. Chest Jack. She stood barely and stumbled toward the door. It opened with a hiss. A nurse looked surprised. You shouldn't be walking yet, the woman said gently. Where is he? Alira asked, eyes wild. The human, the one who was injured. The nurse nodded. This way. They led her down a narrow corridor. Through silver doors. Into a quiet room. There he was. Jack lay on a medical bed, pale but breathing. Machines beeped softly around him. A scar ran across his side, freshly healed. His arm was wrapped. But he was alive. She stepped forward, heart racing. Double quotes Jack. His eyes opened slowly. At first, he seemed confused. Then he smiled faintly. Told you I wasn't going down. She laughed, relief breaking through her tears. You idiot, you're welcome. She sat beside him, taking his hand. The tribe's gone. The rescue team picked up heat signatures moving away from the region. They're in hiding now, Jack sighed. Good. Where do we go now? She asked. He looked at her, eyes soft. Where do you want to go? She paused. I don't want to go back to any world where I'm barren. I want ... A life. A real one. Maybe a place where people don't care if I can give life, only that I choose to live it. Jack nodded slowly. Sounds nice. She looked at him. And you? He chuckled. I just want a warm bed. One that doesn't smell like sand and blood. She squeezed his hand. Then maybe we share one. 2 weeks later, the ship landed on a green planet, rich with forests, rivers, and light rains. A human colony, calm and untouched by war. Jack walked with a slight limp. Alira moved with new strength. They stepped into a small cabin built near the woods. 2 cups sat on the table. A soft blanket waited on a real bed. A dog barked in the distance. Jack sat down, breathing deep. Alira walked to the window and looked. At the sky, she said, in my language. The word for home also means place where breath returns. Jack tilted his head. That's beautiful, she turned. This feels like that. He smiled. Welcome home. That night, as the stars returned, she crawled into bed beside him. He pulled her close. Her head rested on his chest. No more spears, no more screams. Just the slow rhythm of 2 survivors who chose each other. I never had a warm bed, she whispered. Jack kissed her forehead. You do now.